Matthew 6. Take heed that ye do not your alms before men to be seen of them, otherwise ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret himself shall reward thee openly. And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray, standing in the synagogues, and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. But when ye pray, use not vain repetitions, as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. Be not ye therefore like unto them. For your Father knoweth what things ye have need of, before ye ask him. After this manner therefore pray ye. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Abanawa, Shabashamayim, Kodash, Hayashaka, Yahawa, Malakwaka, Daba'a Ratazaka, Haya, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Kawa, Haya, Bashamayim, Nathan Lanawa, Lakam, Kal Yuwam, Wasalak Lanawa, Kawabwat Nawa, Kasalak Nawa, Kawabwati Nawa, Wala'a, Dabaya Nawa, Banasaya 1, Abal, Hawashai Nawa, Mayan, Rai Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwat, Waha'ala, Wahatapa Arath, La Iwalamium, Aman.
After this manner therefore pray ye. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessing, salutation, the hopeful elect out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. All right, what I want to get into today, is dealing with, afternoon news and prophecy. All right, all right, which is Esau Edom, is always in the mix. Okay, the man of violence. All right, as the scripture referred to him, Esau has different titles in the scriptures. He's known as the wicked, okay, the devil, all right, the man of violence, okay, the violent man, as the scriptures say, and he lives up to all these titles, man. He's deceptive, he's crafty, he's violent, and he's the source of wickedness in the earth. And the latest thing been going on, with conflict in the earth has been the war, all right, between well, not the war, all right, the escalation, all right, of war, with Pakistan and India. All right, which those are both Edomites, but they share a border, and there's been an ongoing feud on their border, since the '60s. Dealing with this land of Kashmir, and there's been different disputes, with borders and particular things, but we have to understand Esau Edom, all right, has his hands in everything dealing with these foreign governments and these foreign affairs, all right, and as you, because the spirit just told me to kind of look into, their history and the happenings, over there in their region, and lo and behold, you find, all right, the fingerprints of the devil all over this situation. Okay, so we're gonna get into it. First, we're gonna go into the spirit. All right, we're gonna go into the precepts. Because the precepts gives us the characteristics. Okay, of Esau, Edom, even going all the way back to Cain. Okay, and Yahweh Shai, he made mention of it when you go to the book of Saint John, the 8th chapter. Okay, and this man behavior can be tracked all throughout the Bible. Okay, and that's who we know who Esau Edom is. All right, it's not no Japhet. No, the Edomites have particular characteristics. Okay, Esau has a particular characteristic that will stand out in the earth. All right, and Yahweh Shai, he was talking about the wicked leadership of Jake. All right, and who did he compare them to? All right, when you read St. John 8:44, it said, "Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do." Okay, so it's the Yahweh Shai is comparing these niggas to the devil, and this is Esau. Okay, he's comparing niggas to Edomites because who did the leadership of Israel sell out to at this time? The Edomites, man. All right, Edom Rome. It says he was a murderer from the beginning, going back to Cain, and abode not in the truth, but there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it, man. Even going back to the serpent, and Cain lied about, the whereabouts of Abel. Okay, so this man was a liar and a murderer from the beginning. He's a father of violence in the earth, man. You go back to Genesis the 4th chapter, and you read about the descendants of Cain. Okay, now this is the book of Genesis chapter 4:23. It says, "And Lamech said," matter of fact, I'm gonna read it 4:22. It says, "In Zillah she also bare Tubal Cain, and the instructor of every artificer in brass and iron." And what do you think they made? Okay, and the sister of Tubal Cain was Nama. So Nama. So he was an instructor of every artificer, which is brass and iron. What do you think they was making, man? Okay, because you go down to the next verse and we'll get something in the AI overview as well to kind of go into it. Genesis 4:23, and Lamech said unto his wives, Adah and Zillah, "Hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech, hearken unto my speech. I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold, man." Okay, and Eliashua woman did a lesson going into this. All right, and they were dealing with Lamech, trying to play the victim, to justify his wickedness, man. Which we see these devils do that today. Okay, but going back into it, soon as you go into how Tubal Cain was an instructor of every artifice in brass and iron, and then you go into the next, all right, precept. It talks about Lamech, all right, putting somebody to death, man. You know, so this man, all right, the descendants of Cain, all right, they was known for what? Violence. And that's why you go here, all right, because the descendants of Cain was around during this time. And you go into Genesis 6 and 5 before the flood, and the Most High saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. Okay? And you jump down to verse um 11, it said the earth also was corrupted before the Most High, and the earth was filled with violence, man. Okay, you best believe Cain had a major influence, okay, on the violence that was in the earth, man. Okay, because you see the spirit of Lamech, all right, and he had plenty of sons, and his sons had sons, and okay, all the way up until the time of the flood. So you can imagine, okay, the atmosphere of the earth with the nation, all right, the descendants of Cain on the loose, man. Okay, it's just like today with Esau, Edom on the loose, man. It's a very violent, okay, society, man. Okay, now I want to go here, and then we'll go into the conflict in India and link it back to Esau. Dealing with this conflict with India and Pakistan. So let's go here to this quick AI overview. I just asked it. Um, yeah, I said Cain's descendants impact on the earth. All right, so you go into biblical overview. It says in the Bible, Cain's descendants, after killing his brother Abel, are depicted as initially living a nomadic lifestyle, which they moved around. All right, fugitive, and developing various technologies and skills, including art, agriculture, and metalwork. While their advancements are noted, they are also portrayed as leading a corrupt society that contributed to the wickedness that led to the flood. Okay? While their investments are noted, they are also portrayed as leading a corrupt society that contributed to the wickedness that ultimately led to the flood. The Bible does not explicitly state that Cain's descendants were inherently evil, but their actions and their state of society, all right, they created, suggested a departure from the Most High's intended path for humanity, a rebellion, just as Esau has the earth, all right, in a complete rebellion against Yahweh Bashim Al Shai. Okay, so you have to see these things in the spirit. The scriptures say comparing spiritual things with spiritual things, man. All right, and there's no doubt about it. Cain came back as Esau, and the descendants of Esau, the Edomites, are doing the same thing the descendants of Cain were doing in the earth, man. All right, leading a rebellion, okay, and through various develops and technology has created forever wars in the earth, man. Okay, because they're continual violence. Okay, so let's go here. So let's go into the happenings over there with India and Pakistan. Now Elon doing the reporting, so you have to listen hard, to the English. I try to summarize what's being said, but let's go here. Um, Let me read this news clip first. So you had India launching an attack, a few days ago in Pakistan, killing like 20 people. Okay, now Pakistan has launched multiple attacks against India, so now it's a back and forth, and it began with an event, where tourists got killed in India, and India blamed it on Pakistan. Pakistan is saying they had nothing to do, with that attack. Okay, and we're gonna go into all right who's had something to do with that because it has CIA, all right, all over it, and British intelligence, which is the MI6. Okay, but when you go into it, it says Pakistan's armed forces launched multiple attacks using drones and other munitions along India's entire western border on Thursday night and early Friday. The Indian Army said as conflict between the nuclear armed neighbor has intensified. So now what we're seeing, they've entered into an escalation ladder. Okay, well, one side attacks, the other side retaliates. So now it's on India to see if they're going to retaliate back against Pakistan. Okay, so this is turned into a back and forth. Okay, we're going to see how this thing escalates, man. Okay, and it says the old enemies have been clashing since India struck multiple locations in Pakistan on Wednesday, which is said were terrorist camps in retaliation for the deadly attack on Hindu tourists in Indian Kashmir last month. Okay, so you supposed to have these attacks that happened in Kashmir. All right, and these attacks, you had these different uh, what you call resistant groups. Okay, in Pakistan, and supposedly they, all right, launched these attacks. So now they're trying to say that Pakistan is aiding, these different terror groups to do, attacks on India. So India took it out on Pakistan. Okay, and then Pakistan has retaliated. So now you have a back and forth. Okay, and we're gonna go to the source of what we're seeing happening. It said Pakistan denied it was involved in the attack, but both countries have exchanged cross-border fire and shelling and sent drones and missiles into each other's airspace since then, with nearly 4 dozen, all right, people dying in the violence. All right, so let's go here to a video and it kind of explains what's going on. I don't know if it's this video or not. So let's go here. So now India and Pakistan is in this back and forth. And remember, these are two nuclear countries, man. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to go to nuclear war, all right? But when this war, this Third World War as a whole, okay, goes nuclear, all right? India and Pakistan, all right, they're going to let off too, okay? So let's go here to this video, play a few minutes of it, and we'll come back into it.
Al Jazeera Podcasts.
Hey YouTube, we're switching things up today with an audio-only episode. No video this time, so just pop in your earbuds and enjoy the listen. Today, a major escalation between two nuclear-armed rivals.
Indian authorities accuse Pakistan's military of shelling villages along the de facto border. The violence follows Indian airstrikes that struck 9 sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-administered Kashmir early on Wednesday.
Why India and Pakistan are inching towards a war neither country can afford. I'm Manuel Rapalo, and this is The Take.
I'm Charu Sudan Kasturi. I'm a senior editor at Al Jazeera English. I oversee a lot of the original content that we produce on the website.
Charu, India and Pakistan are engaged in the most dramatic exchange of fire since they went to war in 1971. The catalyst for this was an April 22nd attack in Indian-administered Kashmir. Can you tell us the latest?
The latest that we're seeing today, Annie, is that Pakistan and India have each accused the other of launching drones. So Pakistan has announced that it has shot down 25 Indian drones that apparently, according to Pakistan, were aimed at multiple cities, including major population centers like Karachi, Lahore, and other major cities. Pakistan claims they were all shot down, but some of them did hit.
The previous night, India made an offensive mistake, and it will have to bear the repercussions of its actions. Perhaps they thought we would retreat, but they forgot that by the grace of God, we are a nation of brave people who are steely in their determination.
India, meanwhile, has accused Pakistan of having set off similar drones and missiles towards India earlier today and claims that it shot those down. So in a sense, what we're seeing is a drone warfare kind of scenario that's broken out after India launched actual missiles at multiple sites in Pakistan.
And let's talk about that operation by India, because those airstrikes are part of what has been dubbed, quote, Operation Sindoor. I'm wondering if you could tell us what the significance is of that name specifically, of Operation Sindoor.
Sure. To understand the significance of that name, I think we need to circle back for a second to April 22nd. Gunmen emerged from a forest next to a meadow in Indian-administered Kashmir, segregated men from women among a large group of tourists, and then among the men, identified non-Muslims and specifically targeted them, leaving a number of Hindu widows. Now, Sindoor, which was the name of the military operation that India launched against Pakistan, means vermilion in Hindi and Sanskrit. Vermilion is this cosmetic, reddish-orange cosmetic that Hindu women apply to their forehead as a sign of their marital status. And when they're no longer married or are widowed, they no longer wear it. So, in essence, the Indian government, by naming the Operation Sindoor, is signaling that it's a sort of revenge for the attacks of April 22nd that left many Hindu women widowed.
So just to explain what he was saying, and then we'll go all right to the next video. So what happened on April 22nd, at this tourist spot in Kashmir, gunmen, pretty much emerged out the wood, rounded some people up, all right, and they separated, those that were non-Muslim, because what you have Pakistan there, there's a large Muslim population, and India is a Hindu population, so you have some religious dynamic in that as well. So, um, so these gunmen came out of the woods in this rural era, rounded up these people, all right, in Kashmir, and they uh, separated the Muslims from the Hindus, and they killed, 26, like 26, 16, of the Hindu tourists, and they went to Twitter, so-called, and took responsibility for it. Now, when I first heard this, I immediately thought of how ISIS, does particular things, and then they go to social media. They just conveniently have this social media that they can post to. All right, here it is. They're supposed to be, world, world, infamous terrorists. Okay, but they just conveniently have a social media site to where they can post whenever they do terror attacks. Okay, just like ISIS, all right, just like Al Qaeda, just like what you call what was the last group? It was one uh before ISIS, but it was another group. But they used to just do these terror attacks and just post to Twitter. Well, this is what you have going on, all right, in India, in Pakistan. So this group that's in Pakistan, which we're going to go into a relationship that Pakistan and America has. And see, this is what America does, man. Once you get in bed with America, which Pakistan was in bed with America, then prepare, all right, to be in conflicts that you don't even know nothing about. Okay? Which, they know to a degree, but they never know, all right, the extent, all right, of the American, and the Western governments, as far as how they operate within their country, man. You get this double free range in your country, man. Tell them what you're gonna be into. Okay? So let's let this play a little more, then we're gonna switch to the video that explains the American Pakistan connection. All right.
Regarding that attack that took place on April 22nd, as you mentioned, 26 tourists who lost their lives in that attack. Pakistan was quick to deny any involvement in that. What evidence has India presented that Pakistan was responsible in any way for that attack?
India hasn't publicly presented any evidence to demonstratively establish that Pakistan was involved. But what has happened is that a little-known separatist group in Kashmir known as the Resistance Front initially came forward and claimed responsibility for the attack.
The Kashmir resistance claimed responsibility for the attack on social media. It expressed discontent that more than 85,000, quote, outsiders had settled in the region.
Now, they subsequently backtracked.
So you have, let's say these resistant groups. Whenever you hear freedom fighters, resistant groups, more than likely these are CIA operatives that have been trained, by the CIA, maybe MI6, and if it's in the Middle East, the CIA, and Mossad, which is the intelligence agency of the small hats, which is the Mossad. Okay, so that makes sense, all right, for America, to be behind this, because they have interests everywhere, and they get the most done whenever there's division amongst these other nations. Okay, they're able to manipulate these governments, okay, with protection, okay, with economics, okay, with new infrastructure, okay, after the war, okay. So these devils, they have different interests in why they start, these wars, and also these nations buy weapons, all right, from what? These Edomite arms groups. I mean, these are Edomite weapon manufacturers, man. Okay, so both sides buy weapons from the same manufacturers. Okay, to get the edge on the other. So this devil has a lot of interest in starting wars. Okay, and this is what this devil does, man. And this is why this third world war, he's going to be judged in this war. This part of him, causing mischief, and then mischief falling on his own head. All right, which we'll get there. But let's play this, and it's going to show the link between America and Pakistan.
India and Pakistan spiraling out of control, two nuclear countries on the verge of a massive war. Where did this start? How did this start? And did Western intelligence, such a dirty word, did they play a role in the latest terror attack in Kashmir? Did Western intelligence stir this whole thing up? This is really the nugget I think we've been looking for, wondering how this evolved and what is the latest on all of this. Let's ask former CIA analyst Larry Johnson, who just wrote a whole piece about this, asking the very question, did Western intelligence play a role in the latest terror attack in Kashmir? So we wanted to go right to the source, former CIA analyst Larry Johnson. Larry, great to see you. So I think this was a lot of Americans trying to wrap their head around, how did this start? Was just some sort of a organic terrorist attack, and now India's firing missiles in, and Pakistan says we are prepared to use nuclear weapons as of just a few minutes ago, saying they are prepared to use nuclear weapons. So did the West have anything to do with this?
I think so. I think it's highly likely. Look, most people, when they hear about Kashmir, they're thinking that it's either a sweater they're wearing or they're listening to Led Zeppelin, okay? It's one of the two. But this Kashmir region, which is up in the northwest corner of India, has been it's a legacy of colonial rule by the Brits. When they bailed out, they divided it up sort of arbitrarily, giving 1/3 to Pakistan, 2/3 to India, and it's been a sore point of contention ever since. But Pakistan's relationship with U.S. intelligence is profound and deep. Recall that one of the early CIA programs was running U-2 airplanes, the spy planes over the Soviet Union. Gary Powers got shot down, I think it was 1962. Well, those planes, those planes were based out of Pakistan. We're running them out of Pakistan. Then when the Soviets invaded Afghanistan, again, much as a result of a U.S. provocation in 1979, lo and behold, the United States then starts using Pakistan as a funnel for training radical Islamists to carry out attacks against the Soviets. And in the course of that, we developed relationships with a whole variety of nasty Sunni Islamic terrorist groups. Let's jump ahead to 2008, when the one group, Lashkar-e-Taiba, out.
So just to sum it up, what he's saying, America, has had ties in Pakistan for a while. Even using, Pakistani airstrips, to do particular operations in their region. All right, training certain, all right, terrorist groups, these Sunni extremist, terrorist groups, to go against, Russia, to attack Russia over there, and train Al Qaeda, through Osama bin Laden, okay, and all these different things, just in the mix, okay. So these devils, they've been doing this for a while, training up these different terror groups, to do their dirty work in particular events. Okay, so this attack on India, in April 22nd that killed those terrorists, you best believe that was a CIA hit. All right, and they go straight to social media and take the blame for it. And what that does, that puts pressure on India to retaliate somewhere because it makes them look weak. So this is the games, all right, that the CIA, all right, and these Western, intelligence groups play, over there in the region of the East. They play with these terrorist groups. They use these terrorist groups as proxies and pawns, okay, for the big agenda that they want. All right, whether it's like I say, whether it's resources, okay, whether it's different land grabs, okay, or whatever it might be. But they use these proxies to destabilize the region, cause war between, either civil war within a particular government, or they append two governments against each other by having, a false flag event happen. Okay, these terrorists do these CIA operatives, okay, aka terrorists, they'll do an event, all right, they'll do an attack, all right, but they'll carry the banner, of a nation that had nothing to do with it. So now these two nations, because once you start the back and forth, see, now it ain't no point of return, okay? Because now both nations are now attacking each other back and forth, and see, this all Esau want, okay? He don't care about, the story being tacky how it started. It started now, you see, and this how the devil operate, man, throughout the earth, okay? Um,
Dramatic seaborne assault on the city of Mumbai, India. We used to call it Bombay, but Mumbai killed 166 people, wounded over 330. They were attacking tourists in hotels. So when I would tell you that the United States has had long-standing relationship and been involved with terrorist groups in Pakistan, you might say, "Oh, Johnson, that's just your opinion." Oh, no. Last week, 2 weeks ago, the defense minister of Pakistan, Asif, came out and said that Pakistan has been doing the dirty work for the United States with these terrorist groups for more than 30 years. And he knows exactly, not my words, his words. So he admitted to it. So here we get this terrorist attack that took place 2 weeks ago in Kashmir. It was hitting a tourist site, not a terrorist site, but a tourist site. There was no reason for this other than you could say, well, just the group wanted to make sure that it was no longer tourist friendly. But I maintain that whether it's the CIA or MI6, the Britain's intelligence service, one of the aspects in this is to do at least a couple of things: heighten the tensions, provoke a conflict between India and Pakistan in hopes that this is going to create problems for India's relationship with China, as well as a way to subvert BRICS. Because under BRICS, you've got Russia, China. Those are the West has a great desire to destroy India's ability. No, we just learned today that I imagine India is going to get attacked by the West for that as well. So I think the odds are very high that there were Western intelligence reason in the world from the standpoint of the United States to try to weaken India, to try to hurt India, to try to keep India from getting into BRICS. We want to control India. That's the West objective. And we've done it through this long-term relation, going like this, a lot of movement backward.
So once again, all right, you see the devil in the mix, man. You just do a little investigating into different situations, man. And this nigga name always show up, man. Like I'm just sincerely, trying to see, what the beef is with India and Pakistan, and like what's the history, okay? But it always route back to this nigga, man. Okay, so the U.S., is Pakistan is in bed with the U.S., and when you in bed with the U.S., they gonna have you on some grimy, treacherous, backhand, all right, type things, okay, in the earth, man. And with India, doing a deal with Iran, okay, which strengthens Iran economy, which strengthens their military. Okay, the West has a problem with that, man, especially America, man. Okay, so we'll see. Like I say, India and Pakistan, they're in the back and forth. So we'll see if things escalate. It might calm down. All right. But at the end of the day, we know eventually all these nations, okay, are going to go all out in this third world war. Okay. And the nukes coming to America, man. All right. Because America, the shit started in the earth, the instigator of the earth, man. Okay. Now let's go here to the book of Psalms, chapter 7. All right, in verse this verse 7 and 14. It says, "Behold, he travaileth with iniquity," is speaking of Esau, Edom, the wicked, "and have conceived mischief and brought forth falsehood," man. Okay, and this what this devil does, man. In his wickedness, he's always plotting and scheming in the background. Okay, then the mischief, it's always some type of mischief. People, these attacks and people being destroyed. Okay, wars and conflict. What That's why you have a South and North Korea. It goes back to America, man, and the Western government. Okay, they just turn people into, they just turn countries against one another. They, all about that divide and conquer, and some type of division. And then they always bring forth falsehood, man, because you never know the real reason why these nations are in conflict. If you just listen to, the media, man. Okay. And this what this devil does, man. He's in the background causing all this mischief and war and violence and death in the earth, you know. But he has a narrative that has nothing to do with him in the media, man. Okay. Just like Trump, playing as if he's this peace negotiations for Ukraine and Russia. Nigga, America, the reason Russia's at war with Ukraine. America started that war. Okay, American and Western governments, man. Okay, and they act like they just don't know what's going on. No, nigga, you started that whole situation. They just act like they just want peace so bad, and we're talking to Zelensky, Zelensky in the White House, and these niggas arguing. And, no, man, nigga, you started the war. Okay, when he gets to play peacemaker on camera, man, and that's their falsehood that these devils operate in, man. Okay, he said he made a pit and digged it and is falling into the ditch which he made, man. And see, the devil, has set these traps all throughout the earth. You know, this man has, constantly entrapped these different governments and trapped, the populations all throughout the earth. But he's going to fall into that pit, man, because everything that he's doing is leading him to slavery. You know, everything that this man is doing because he wants to digitally enslave the masses. That's why he has all this conflict and division. He wants people divided, so he can manipulate, all right, his new world order into play. Okay? So he wants to have everyone, a digital slave. That's the pit ultimately that he's digging, the big trap that he's digging. But he's going to go into slavery, man, and he's going to be under ultimate control. Okay? And it said his mischief shall return upon his own head, and a violent dealer shall come down on his own pate. And it's talking about these missiles, man, because the missiles are going to destroy this man's age. Okay, this nuclear holocaust is going to destroy Esau's age, man, the age of the Edomite. Okay, him being in power, this nuclear war is going to destroy all of that, man. Okay, so all this mischief that he's doing is going to return on his own head. His violent dealing, that's why I say it shall come down. Okay, those nukes, man, and ultimately Yahweh shot. Okay, it says, I will praise the Lord according to his righteousness and will sing praise to the name of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, Most High, man. you know, and we praise the Lord that there's a judgment, you know, written for this devil. Okay. So, yeah, that's the point. You know, I just want to go into that, you know, something I was looking into today, you know, and, you know, y'all uncle name keep coming up in shit, you know, so you just report on it. But Lord will, you know, you brothers, all right, and you sisters edified. Till next time I say shalom.